Weirdos. I'm Felicia, and I like scary movies. And I have a guest that has not been on the channel in too long. And that is Lee from Those Horror Pals.
Hey!
How's it going?
Good.
Your new setup is sick. I was just saying, like
Thank
your
you.
collection behind you is very cool. I love
Thanks. I'm really happy with it. I'm excited when I can have like an office film space when I'm not in
the
this
dream.
place anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, not in this place. My next move.
Yeah, and I sort of had that ish, but it's kind of this it's all the spaces that we don't have space for all collect into one room. If that makes sense. So it's like office / YouTube / music / Travis's closet / boom.
I kind of love that
works.
though. Very eclectic.
It works. Yeah. But yeah, so last month on Horror Movie Club, we were talking about John Carpenter films, and we covered 2 of the 3 that we're going to talk about today. So we covered The Thing and Mouth of Madness.
Yes.
And then you texted me, be like, oh, we should do a video about this, about like the Apocalypse trilogy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, yes, but I've never seen Prince of Darkness. Shame, the shame. So I watched that one last night, and I am ready to talk because I didn't really understand in my head how The Thing and Mouth of Madness were related. I didn't see it. But then after watching Prince of Darkness, I was like, oh, it's like I'm starting to understand how this all goes together.
Yeah. There's an overall big picture, and it's just these 3 movies that are all, hey, no.
Yes, kitty cat! Come to us.
It's these 3 movies of just impending doom where there's no hope for anybody, and I kind of love it. They're all really big on practical effects and really big on just crazy shit that it's throwing at you. I like it a lot.
Me too. And I was reading some stuff this morning about other smart people that have written about the trilogy, but the idea that all of the monsters they're fighting against are sort of these unknown, unseen entities. Like The Thing, sure, it might be an alien, but it's not an alien that you can it's not like a xenomorph that you can just go kill. It's otherworldly and a way that doesn't fit into our reality.
It's a cell that you can't. It can exist in the smallest form of possible.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And they're oh, that's a good way to say it too. It's all of the monsters in all of the movies are so adaptable that they can just infiltrate anyone, anything. And that's something else that they all kind of relate, is this sense of paranoia and trying to figure out if people are just going crazy or not. Well, that's not really true in The Thing. I think it's pretty clear. But paranoia of who is being possessed at any given time, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely agree with that. There's a lot of paranoia. I think the one overarching theme with all of them is hopelessness.
Yes.
None of these situations are something that you can hope to win. Absolutely.
They don't have any kind of classic horror movie structure with man versus monster. It doesn't have those clear things going on. There's no lead that can then go defeat the big bad guy.
Right, exactly.
Because the big bad guy is too big.
Yeah, I mean, with The Thing, you can't even risk it getting out, because one cell of this thing getting out, the whole world is fucked.
Yes.
Do you want to kind of go through each one by one?
I think so. I think that's a good way to do it.
Okay.
So let's start with The Thing. That was the first one of the trilogy, so 1982. I can't. Did you come to that horror movie club? I can't remember anything in my whole life.
I think I popped in toward the end. I was doing something that day, but
No, it's fine. Okay, so I don't know I don't know what your thoughts on The Thing. That's what I was trying to make sure.
I mean, I think I have similar thoughts to a lot of people in that, it's one of the best, one of the best of the best. It's so good. It holds up to this day. The practical effects are incredible. So well. There's no comparison. It's just a really expertly crafted paranoia piece. Yes. And it works so well because all of the characters are fairly endearing. and it's genuinely unnerving to like have these characters who you're all, you know, you've gotten to kind of get attached to, and you don't know, they don't know, and you don't know who among them is infected or is even, you know, a human anymore. And I think that is a fascinating concept. I think it's terrifying. I love it.
Absolutely. And I mean, what are some of your, I think this is also a fun thing to do as we just go through the movies. What are some of the most like impactful moments for you of The Thing? Like, especially in terms of like the paranoia and of course the practical effects, if you're going to bring that into.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of classic scenes. The blood test scene is incredible. So good. Too good. And I mean, the fact it's such a good misdirect too. Because like we're so trained at this point to like the build up to the jump scare, if you will, and they just go for it there. They're like they bait you into thinking that you're gonna have to like kind of go through a long tense scene, and the first one they do is
that's such a good point.
It's awesome. I love it. That whole entire scene, that the defibrillator bit with the chest compression, all of those are so iconic. You gotta be you gotta be fucking kidding. Like it's so good. The whole movie is awesome. And then I mean even the ending is just, it's so bleak. But it's so good. I love it.
Yeah. It's something you said that really stood out to me is like the idea of it not doing what it's baiting you that you think it's going to happen. And I think John Carpenter does that so well in all of these movies. Because, like, obviously, we think back to Halloween and him kind of solidifying this, like, slasher structure that then would become, you know, burned into our minds for every horror movie afterwards. And then these, he's like, oh, I made this thing. Oh, just kidding. I'm going to, like, break all the rules of that and totally throw you off the entire time.
Right, exactly. No. Oh, and of course the initial dog kennel scene. That is
it's
like
so upsetting.
It's upsetting and it's so gnarly. It's like so. The first time you see that, you're like, oh my, like what the, like you can't even. It's a good example of Lovecraftian horror, I think, because you can't even fully comprehend what you're looking at.
Yes, your brain is like misfiring. Like it doesn't understand. Yeah, what it's looking at. It can't comprehend
it. Multiple heads and like different like pieces that you're just like, you're like, what, where am I supposed to be looking? Where's its face?
Exactly, where's its face? It's so unnerving.
Yeah.
And that's what works so well about it, because obviously in every movie where there's any kind of dogs, I'm very worried. It's very upsetting, all the dog stuff. But then when it turns into that thing, it's like, that's not even a dog anymore. Like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's really, really disturbing, and it's awesome, and sad, of course. I mean, it's hard to watch, for sure, but it's just, you're just like, oh, like, what on earth is that?
Absolutely. Oh, something else I was reading in an article, I think it was on Den of Geek or something, talking about, like, each of these movies also have a super isolated environment. So, like, obviously on this one, they're stuck on this, like, research base. And that adds to the horror so much also because, like, they can't, the radio signals are down, they can't get out, there's no escape. And at the same time, like, they want to escape, but they also want to contain at the same time. And that's, like, this, like, cross thing going on that I think is really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's fantastic. Plus, I mean, it's just got a ton of really good characters.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, there's you know, Keith David, Kurt Russell, like, Wilford Brimley, a whole lot of them. It's so good. Like, there are so many memorable parts in that movie that I'm genuinely, like, it was so panned when it came out.
I know.
And I don't understand how. I don't understand how.
Yeah, like, and also, like, when, I don't know, like, who decided that, like, it was good now? Like, I don't know, like, when did that transition happen?
I don't know. I mean, like, I always find that fascinating when, like, you know, a movie's totally snubbed and then, like, people start appreciating it later down the line. And I mean, with The Thing, I think it's completely deserved.
Yes. Do you ever think about, like, movies that we review now, like maybe something I hated, like maybe in like 10 years I'll be like, what was I thinking? This is incredible.
I already feel like that's going to be the case with The Dark and the Wicked eventually.
Oh,
like I know
we both had best
yeah, I know. Like neither of us liked it, and like I keep seeing people praising it, and I'm like, am I nuts? Like what?
I think part of it too is the timing of the release of that film during a year in which the world is in like group grief. I just think is like
that's also
it was a
true.
difficult time for release. So maybe once like we're really out of this. One day, who knows? Maybe we will feel differently about it. But I was like, it was just too much for me, honestly. I was like, I can't.
Yeah, I get that. I completely understand that.
Let's move on then. Let's talk about Prince of Darkness a little bit more now. I mean, this is, I guess, obviously very fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
I guess we're not saying plots, but this is not a vampire film. I said this
It's not.
as soon as we got on Skype. I was like, I thought Prince of Darkness, my first brain went Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. My second brain went clearly a vampire movie, and then I started and I was like, what is going on?
It's neither of those things.
No, it's literally like the devil is gonna come to Earth through this green goo that this group of like, you know, grad students was trying to like investigate in a church, and the Catholic Church has been like holding it like secretly for like 2,000 years. I don't know. There's a lot going on.
So, what I love about Prince of Darkness and what makes it so weird and so different than like anything I've really seen is that it's this very strange melding of science and religion in a way that's like there's a lot of things that are like polar opposites to each other, but they're happening right in front of you, and your brain is like, wait, what, huh? So
That's such a good point.
It's so cool. It's genuinely, of these three movies, like The Thing is the best. The Thing is the best one, but Prince of Darkness is my favorite.
Oh, interesting.
It's just like it unnerved me to no end, and I will talk about that, but I want to hear your thoughts on it first.
Yeah, well, I love what you just said, because I didn't even really... I think I felt that while watching it, but hadn't, like, intellectualized it. But yes, the idea of, like, people trying to use science to deal with religious-based problems. I just filmed a favorite religious horror movies video. And in thinking about that, like, whenever we get... Typically, I feel like most of them are like Catholic-based imagery, characters, all that stuff, like the fear within the Catholic Church, like used as horror device. And it's like, okay, great, we have that. But then in this movie, they're taking these like, they have all these like machines and like smart brains, and like they're deciphering things. It almost, I mean, this is like a very ridiculous way, but Da Vinci Code-esque things going on. Do you know what I mean?
I see. Yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from with that.
Yes, and it's not something we typically see in religious based horror films. Like typically, it's like, okay, it's like good versus evil, and everything is kind of on that like Catholicism plane. And in this one, it's like, oh no, we're dealing with like science fiction within the Catholic Church, and it's like, what? Like, I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's really, really cool and really different and weird, and it's so, like, deeply hopeless and bleak throughout its entire runtime, and I think that's so fascinating. It's such a different type of horror film.
You know what it is? They're never winning.
Never.
They're never winning. They're always losing the entire movie. Someone is always being infected or killed or something. Like, there's no point where it's like, oh, they might win this.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's a slasher film. But it's a slasher film with, like it's the structure of a slasher film. But with all this scientific and religious and zombie stuff on top of it. And it's like, it's so unique. And the idea of like the devil being this force that is just this swirling green goo in a tube, and this idea, it plays with this whole like dichotomy of like light and dark, and how like matter and antimatter, and how like, well, if there's a god, then theoretically there's an anti-god, because like it's like it strips the biblical stuff out of it, and it's like Jesus Christ, the Antichrist, which is this green tube of goo. And so it's like, okay, so then the father of the Antichrist would basically be a negative version of God. And green goo Satan is going to try and open a portal for evil God.
Yes!
Like, that's terrifying.
Like, that is, like, I feel like John Carpenter must have been on some sort of drugs while figuring out the plot to this movie. Like,
it's insane.
Wild.
It's insane. And then that's not even factoring in, like, all the future premonitions that people are getting.
Oh, yes, the, like, documentary in their head. When
yeah,
they
like
with
like the this is not a dream, this is a signal, or whatever, broadcasting. It's so, they're just so eerie.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have Alice Cooper.
I know. You know what's funny is the first scene where he's like standing in front of the church, I did not recognize him, and then it wasn't until the second scene that I was like, oh my god.
It was around the point where he stabbed the one dude with a bicycle that I realized it was Alice Cooper.
It's so funny. I wonder like how that happens. Like how that all came together for us.
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I feel like there's probably a story about it somewhere, but
if you know it, put it in the comments, because I'm dying
seriously,
to know.
Please. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's this really, really unnerving, eerie, like, doom movie.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what's funny too is, I don't know if you have this, but sometimes when I'm watching older horror movies that I haven't seen before, my brain is like doing this firing thing of references of current or like of newer horror movies where I'm like, oh, that must have been inspired by this.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I do that.
I was thinking about like the people standing, and I was like, it's so like Us, like Jordan Peele's Us.
Yeah.
Going through the mirror, I was like very Oculus. Like I was like that. My brain just like.
Yo, that whole mirror scene is nuts.
It's nuts, and it's so like, I mean, we already mentioned, but when she like pushes the zombie version of her friend through to stop from bringing him up, it's that, like, that moment I was just like, this is such an amazing movie. Like, that's when it like really hit me.
There's the one really horrifying part of that bit for me is like that last shot when he breaks the mirror and you see her just like floating in this black void. And I was like, oh god.
Yes. Oh my god. Yeah, and it's like, okay, now you're just gonna be stuck there forever.
Well, so that I'm glad you said that, because there's something interesting about this movie that I think is awesome. So throughout the whole film, they keep getting this dream where there's like this black cloaked thing standing in a church.
Yes.
And only at the end of the movie do we see does it get close enough to see it's the girl who she pushed into the mirror. Mm-hmm. So that begs the question: was it always her? Or did it just adapt?
Like, was it fate that this was going to happen the whole time?
Like, this could all just... Yeah, exactly. Like, this could all just be, like, predetermined.
That's interesting.
There's no... Like,
or would it have ultimately shown whoever ended up to be?
Exactly. Like was like, there's... Would it have just been a random entity there had they not pushed her in, or did they just give it a body?
Whoa. That's a cool thought. I have no idea.
That's what makes the movie terrifying to me. I was like, and then, you know, with the way it ends especially, it's like, did they even change anything?
Yes, like, was all that worth it?
Yeah.
Or would it have just happened anyway? Because also, like, it was already heating up, right, when you have all those people surrounding the church. Like, it was already starting before they even got there.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, maybe that none of it mattered anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, you know, he's going to touch the freaking mirror at the end. For all we know, that's, you know, just opens it right back. I love it. I think it's a fantastic, unsettling as hell movie.
Yes. You know, one of my favorite shots is, I said this before we started. I have two, I guess. One is when the goo is dripping onto the ceiling.
Yes.
And it's, like, pooling on the ceiling. Like, something about that, I was like, that is, like, so magical and amazing. But the other part is when the zombie girl has her little, like, makeup compact and is, like, reaching into that tiny mirror. And it's like, ah! Like, something about, like, because I didn't understand the mirror thing yet at that point, and I was like, I don't know what is happening, but this is amazing imagery.
It really is. I think it's such an underrated Carpenter movie. I don't ever see people talk about it enough.
Yes, and which I think is kind of why I haven't seen it, because it doesn't seem like one of the big ones to, like, make sure you watch, you know?
Well, it's crazy. Like, you go on YouTube and you find all these crazy in-depth analysis videos of, like, In the Mouth of Madness, which I get, because it's, like, not straightforward, but, like, Prince of Darkness is so good.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think we can go ahead and transition to In the
Clever
Mouth
segue.
of Madness. So now we're in the 90s.
We are in the 90s now.
I was alive when this came out.
Yeah, so was I. Wait, what year was this?
94.
94. Okay, I was alive, yes.
So, I was alive, yes.
Yeah, so a lot of people say, and I'm kind of inclined to agree, that this was, like, Carpenter's last good movie.
Oh. I think I'm looking at the IMDb, and I'll have to say you're probably right. I mean, Ghost of Mars is just
yeah, I've heard that one's a mess. I've heard it's really bad. I haven't seen it.
Like, in the cast, it's like, this might be interesting, and then it's just the opposite of interesting the entire time.
What year was that?
That one was, let's see, 2001.
Oh, that was, oof. That's unfortunate. That's just sad.
It really didn't go well.
But yeah, so 94, In the Mouth of Madness comes out. You got Sam Neill, you got basically Stephen King inspired author.
Yes, exactly.
Who is, like, prolific horror author who has a rabid fan base. Like I said, basically a Stephen King stand-in. Mm-hmm. And
they even mentioned Stephen King at some point. Right?
They do.
They're
yeah.
Like, oh, he's so much scarier than Stephen King.
And Sam Neill is, like, a fraud investigator, right?
Yes. So
Yeah, and so he has to investigate the disappearance of this author.
Yeah, and whether it's a publicity stunt or if it's, like, an actual disappearance.
Right. And then what follows is a bunch of insane meta stuff that, to describe it in detail would be, like, this video would be an hour long.
It's so confusing, but in a fun way. But, like, like, he gets to this town, and then all the stuff into town is basically out of the books.
Well, the town isn't supposed to be a real town. It's a fictional town from the books, but he ends up there. Yeah, it's very cool. And this one definitely has, I would say, some strong differences than the other two. Like the other two have, like, a group of people fighting this thing in an isolated location. Like, this one is, like, this guy is, like, the focus going to, like, this town. But it still has this kind of, like, almost like doomed, but, like, fate-based, like, this is gonna happen no matter what, like, this is gonna go poorly no matter what, because we see him at the beginning, like, in that asylum of some sort, covered, what is he covered with? Crosses? It's like writing. It's, like, just, like, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it is crosses. It is crosses.
I'm sorry, I couldn't remember for a second. But
I'm basing it on the Blu-ray cover.
Oh, nice. But yeah, so you already know, like, that's where he's gonna end up. But the way in which he gets there is so absurd, and it's like, I don't even know how to talk about this movie.
It's really hard to talk about. Like, it's kind of like you really have to, like, kind of bend your mind in order to fully grasp what's going on.
Yes, absolutely.
It's darkly funny because, like, the first scene is him in this asylum, and, you know, everything that follows is him, like, trying to him keep, like, insisting that he's not crazy and, like, trying to prove that he's not crazy, and everything around him is, like, so nuts that if he wasn't crazy before, he's definitely gonna be.
Yeah, exactly. And then isn't it also, like, at the end you find out that, like, none of it was... Wait. Isn't at the end, like, he goes and he's like, and that publisher is like, I didn't send you... That girl didn't go with you. I didn't send you here. Like, blah, 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 blah.
It's very, very weird and meta. Basically, the gist of it is that Sam Neill's character is a character from Sutter Kane's books, and the plot of this movie was his most recent book, and the entire gist of it is that I think, if I may be wrong about this, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think the gist of it is that, like, with so many people rabidly, fanning for this book and this author, and the fact that this author made, like, some sort of Lovecraftian god deal, his books become a doorway into the real world. So you have Sam Neill, who is a fictional character existing in the real world, whose mind is broken by that fact, and you have, this entire film is, like, on a literal level, it's the plot of his new book, where you're watching as Sam, you're literally you're watching the film version of his new book. And
to tell you the truth, you've just blown my mind, because I did not understand some of that when I watched this movie.
Oh, really?
I've only seen it once.
Okay.
I only watched it for Horror Movie Club. I did not understand that, and that just kind of blew my mind. It's almost like taking, like, I wish I could think of an example. It's almost like... I don't know. It's almost like flipping something inside out and then flipping it inside out again and then flipping it inside out again.
No, but exactly. Like, it's not... It's not the most logically sound of these three movies. I'm not going to pretend it is. But what I like about it is that it really does capture the mind-breaking aspect of Lovecraftian horror very well. Like...
Yeah, so you can't comprehend it. It's too too outside of our reality to understand it.
Well, the thing, it hurts your brain as a viewer, and then you also get to watch as it's, like, literally stripping away Sam Neill's sanity throughout the whole movie.
Yes.
And it's got some great imagery, too. I mean, awesome imagery. What's his face, like, ripping his face open like a paper?
Oh, yeah.
So cool. That, the kid on the bike.
Oh, the kid on the bike, yes. God.
Yeah, the kid on the bike creeps me the hell out.
So spooky.
Turns into, like, an old guy. It's like, when you think about that, that's kind of, like, the implications of that, given the rest of the world, is pretty fucked up, because, like, that kid is stuck there, just in this perpetual...
loop.
Bike ride hell.
Yes, absolutely. And, like, so is, I guess, the town, because the town doesn't really exist, so it's like, did you watch WandaVision?
They're just a slave to whatever Sutter Kane makes them do, basically.
Yeah. Have you seen WandaVision?
I have.
Okay, it reminds me of that a little bit.
It's similar, yeah. If Wanda literally... Well, actually, yeah. I mean, if Wanda didn't kidnap a bunch of real people...
Right, that's a good point. Yeah.
And just created a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, no, it's a really, really, really cool... It's the most conceptually adventurous of the three.
Yes, and there's so many layers. There's just like the book covers, like, turning into, like, it's like there's so many layers on this movie that it's just like, how did they even, like, condense it down to a plot that makes sense?
At times I would say there might be too many layers.
Yeah.
It does get a little much, just in the sense that, like, it's so meta at times that it's a little distracting.
I mean, even the fact that, like, I didn't get some, like, key plot stuff with one viewing. It's like, okay, like, I need to watch it again and be like, oh, okay, like, there's these layers, and then you watch it again, it's like, okay, now there's these layers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can cut this part out if you don't want to give anyone free clout on this channel, but I don't know. Do you watch Ryan Hollinger's stuff?
Example?
He's like he's a YouTuber. He does a lot of like horror movie video essays. He's Scottish.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've seen him.
Or Irish.
So, one of those, yeah.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, but he has a really cool analysis of this movie.
Oh, nice. Okay, I'll watch it.
That was the one that I listened to. That I was like, I think this is probably the best read on it that I've heard.
No, I'm gonna leave that in, honestly, because that's super helpful, because I'm gonna watch it myself. One last thing I'll mention about this movie is that Frances Bay, who plays the old woman at the like motel or wherever they are, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I mentioned this in Hornby Club, but she's the grandma from like Adam Sandler movies.
Oh my gosh.
And it was such, as soon as she walked on screen, I was like expecting comedy, and then I kind of saw her entire scene as a comedy, because I'm so used to seeing her in like these very weird girl roles. But she's so scary, honestly. Like all of her stuff, I was like, oh, like she's kind of great.
All right, question for you before we wrap up.
Yeah.
How would you rank these?
Ooh, now that I've seen them all, I would probably say. I would put them basically in backwards year order. So I would say The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness. But I really think also In the Mouth of Madness is just something I need to watch again, because maybe that's my ranking right now. But I do feel like I need to watch that movie again.
I think I agree, honestly. In terms of quality, I think you're exactly right. I think that The Thing is the best, and then gradually descending. But I don't think any of them are bad, for the record. I think they're all really, really good movies. I just think that The Thing and Prince of Darkness both have more to chew on. Even if In the Mouth of Madness feels like it has more to chew on, if that makes sense.
Well, it gives you something. It gives you more to hold on to so that you can chew.
Yes,
versus just like floating in the abyss.
Yeah, pretty much. That being said, though, in terms of like my favorites, Prince of Darkness is the top of the list, and then The Thing, and then In the Mouth of Madness.
I love that. Yeah, I mean that movie was awesome. Prince of Darkness, like,
it's so good.
It was really cool. If any of y'all have the ability,
get the Shout Factory Steelbook. It's awesome.
Oh,
it's so
nice.
cool.
Good special features, I assume.
Oh, always. Just Shout Factory. They always have good shit.
They know what to do. Cool.
They really do. I love collector's editions.
Well, thank you so much for coming on my channel. First of all, I'm sure everyone missed you. And second of all, this was a fun video because it's like I feel pretty like I've covered a lot of John Carpenter now, and I'm feeling like pretty good about it. Just not even on my channel, just like for myself as like a master of horror. Like I feel like I've covered a lot of him now in my brain, and I feel good about it.
I completely understand. No, thank you for having me. I love talking about. I mean, I just love talking about this stuff with you, but also I love these movies.
Yeah.
These 3 movies are great, and I'm very excited to have gotten a chance to talk about them with the internet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you.
All right, and as always, Lee's channel and Patreon are going to be linked down below. Go check it out, and have a nice scream. Bye.
Bye.